And I want to begin with a confession. The universe has granted me the blessing and occasionally the trial of being in partnership with someone whose temperament in certain ways feels like the polar opposite of my own. Fortunately, my beloved spouse has a long acquaintance with the subject of our talk tonight, the Enneagram. So when our temperaments clash, usually, rather than retreating into our own righteousness and deciding that the behavior of the other is boneheaded, it helps to remind ourselves that we may just be approaching a situation from different temperamental perspectives. In our case, a 6 versus a 7. And to recognize that in most of life's challenges, that those differences can actually be balancing one another and educating one another in a richly rewarding way. So I can't promise you that tonight's speaker will save your marriage, but if anyone can educate us further in the typology of personality, it is Judy Wilbratte. She knows this subject. Judy is a Houston girl. She grew up on the western edges of town in territory that we think of as ritzy suburbs, but in those days was out in the country. Judy graduated with a business degree from the University of Texas, continued to live in Austin several years, developing marketable skills in computer programming. And returning to Houston, she applied those skills with the Child Protective Services and elsewhere. But then moved to Los Angeles, where she worked for such entertainment behemoths as Disney, Columbia, Universal Pictures, running computer departments for television shows like Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune. Happily, Houston lured her back, and it was here that her long-standing psychological interests turned to the Enneagram. Judy's introduction to that work was through the Cynical Retreat House, maybe acquainted with. Spiritual directors there are required to know this approach. Fascinated she was, and tells me she took every class she could get, then studied with major experts in California, earning certifications from 2 primary organizations in the field, the Narrative Enneagram and Enneagram in Business. And Judy's now been working in that field for over 20 years at venues here in town, such as St. Paul's Church, the Jung Center, Center for Christian Spirituality, Rice University, Catholic Charities, Project Row Houses, and Bridget's Hope, which aids women in transition from prison. She also instructs individuals, couples, families who find that their perspectives gained from the Enneagram can dramatically aid their personal relations. We are very pleased to have us with her tonight. Please welcome Judy Wilbratte.
Rip over the wires here. Hello, I'm glad to be here. Welcome, some people I know just came in, as well as others. Thank you for coming out in the rain. So hopefully it'll be over by the time you leave. So why don't we just start with a little short meditation. And why don't you put both your feet on the ground just so that we can be present. Let our day unwind. And take it, you can close your eyes or just have a soft gaze. And take a deep breath through your nose. And follow your breath down your throat, down your heart area, and down to your belly. Take another deep breath. Follow your breath down, relax. And down to your belly. Take a deep breath in. Out. And we'll come back to the room. This is just a quick one. So just to be able to let the day sort of have a little stopping point. So I love the Enneagram, and I hope you will too after this. It's very much of an intro. There's a lot to cover in one class. It's normally 6 weeks. So we are getting 1 hour here, but my goal was to help you get a sense of what it can do for you and where it starts. You know, where does this typology begin? We usually talk about gifts and then areas of development, but since we have 1 hour, I had to pick. If I talk about gifts, you leave and nothing has changed. So we all go, good. You know, so we're going to get to the areas of development. We'll talk about some general things about the Enneagram, then we'll go through the types and one by one. And at the end, there'll be links you can copy down that will give you will let you access a copy of the PowerPoint presentation as well as the handout you just received. So people at home didn't get the handout. Oh, here it is. People at home didn't get the handout, but you will have access to it at the end. So the Enneagram, I once learned at the Sentinel, describes your shadow signs. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with shadow signs. You raise your hand. Oh, you're a good number. It's basically the areas about your personality or yourself that you may not want to look at. And today we're holding the mirror up a little bit more. So by the time you're our age, most people in the room, you've gotten some feedback from your Enneagram type. You may not have known that's what it was, but you've heard about people mellowing as they get older. Well, that's because they've gotten feedback by certain behaviors and actions. And they've gone, that didn't work out so well. Maybe I won't do that again next time. This just focuses the lens so you can see it better, because the better you can see it, the better you can relax it. So our goal is to relax it. You don't change your type, you relax your type. Very much the way people mellow. This just is a tool that helps you see it quickly and better. Now that said, you won't necessarily know your type when you leave. I know someone back there who's still struggling. It takes time for sometimes find it easier than others. So don't frustrate yourself, just sort of take it in and take a few notes here that aren't on the screen. There's no point in rewriting the screen because you can get to it later. And then we'll get started from there. So if we can go to the next slide. Do I need to do it or you? I'm happy to do it. You want me to just hit the keyboard?
You just press this arrow.
I'll do it. That's fine. I thought maybe you had some remote thing.
I didn't see one, so.
That is not an issue. So, so I'm going to try to keep it simple, you know, try to stay focused on these lines. Enneagram is just a Greek name. Some people think it's satanic, you know, with this name and this logo. No, it just means a model of 9 somethings. There's just nothing magical about it. It is a very helpful tool. Just like Myers-Briggs is a helpful tool and Insights is a helpful tool. How many of you have taken Myers-Briggs test before? Great. I usually get a question. What's the difference between Myers-Briggs and the Enneagram? In Myers-Briggs, you're learning about your preferences And the Enneagram, you're learning about why you do what you do. So I use both. They're both helpful. I use all kinds of personality systems. Take them all. You'll gain insights. Take them all at different times of your life, whatever you want. So the Enneagram, though, is a personality system of 9 patterns of thinking, acting, and feeling, along with their related behavioral motivations. So meaning something is driving this. There's a motivation, a belief, a passion that's driving this. We tend to live in a story. I usually like to say we're like a fish in water. We have these 9 points of view, filters, and so we think this is all there is. And the goal of the Enneagram is to widen those filters so that you see more of reality. The younger you are, the more likely you are to have very fixed filters. As you grow older, like I say, you get this feedback. You may have already gotten some feedback. Y'all were young, I'm sure. You've gotten some along the way, and you go, oh yeah, I remember that. And it's really like living in a story. We live in this story of how things are, and then it drives how we proceed from there. So it's 9 ways of separating from reality. We have realities like this. We are like this. We believe this is all there is. And people go, well, I don't like being put in a box. You're already in the box. We're trying to open the box. So it's just the opposite. So the benefit is it reduces suffering associated with your type by transforming your automatic unconscious patterns. Now, as you get this feedback or insights later, it's not as unconscious, but we're starting off at the younger level. As your type relaxes, you return to your true self, meaning experiencing all of reality and operating out of that reality, and develop greater compassion and acceptance for yourself and others. And I'm pretty informal. If you have a question, just raise your hand. It's no problem. Okay, this is one of many diagrams. You'll see one that I passed out in class. You'll see one on the link if you want to download it later. This is from the Narrative Enneagram program where I got certified by the narrative tradition. The numbers don't mean 1 is better than 2, better than 3. Nothing's better than anyone others. Darn, yeah. And yes, everybody wants to be a 7. They're the fun ones. So, but I have 7s that go, oh, I'm a 7. And so it's like, if you go, it kind of cringe, you probably may have found your type when we get there. Just the possibility. We won't be going into this today, but I just want to give you a sense of how this is a dynamic system. These are actually arrows, like 1 goes to 4 under stress. That means 1's the thinking, acting of a 1. And then when they're stressed, they take on the thinking, acting of a 4. When the security point is 7. So there's a lot of movement around this diagram. They have neighbors, 2 and 9. Typically you have 1 until midlife, and then midlife comes along and maybe this comes out very awkwardly, your other neighbor. There's a lot going on, and then there's 3 kinds of 1s, 3 kinds of 2s, 3 kinds of 3s. Aren't you glad we're starting with just beliefs? so it won't be too crazy today. So, but one of the things I like about it is that we are very complex. And this system is complex, and that's why it describes us so well. I like that it describes me the way I am at different times, and how I'm not this way all the time, but I do have a core type. And out of that core type emanates a pattern of how you operate in the world. All right. You look confused. No. You're like, Okay. Okay, so we're going to cover some beliefs and concepts. You see your belief or viewpoint as absolute truth. This is how the world is, so I have to operate this way. And you did this in childhood as a way to it was a strategy in childhood, you didn't think of it that way, of adapting to your environment. Yes, there's the issue of how twins separated at birth can, be different, look the same. So it's how much of it is environment, how much is it genetic. I know with our first grandchild, she came out screaming, yelling, dominant, and still is, and she's great. And then the second child was not like that at all. They were very different, but there's all kinds of things people speculated about with this. Personality starts at 6, this and that. Whatever, I can tell you, 100% of the people I've had typing sessions with can say, I remember when this made me that way. So, when my sister, when my mother, when my this, they can point to something. I don't think it has to be an either or. I think things can be complicated. So it could be an and. So I don't worry about it. I go, what do I do now? So, okay, so this thinking leads to behavior. So if I'm in an environment where being good is rewarded, what does it make sense to do? Be good. If being dominant makes sense, what does it make sense to do? Control and be dominant as a way of dealing with the dynamics. Every tunnel vision or whatever, or every action someone makes within that tunnel vision makes sense if you have that point of view. So when you go, I don't understand why they think that way, that's because you don't have their point of view, their view of the world. This belief creates an intense focus, energy, and attention that forms a non-negotiable strategy. We talked a little bit about strategy. It's almost like a radar. It's like, I have to be this way because if not, ... We'll talk about this in a second. Bad things will happen. So I'll give you an example. Type 1s tend to be good Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, follow the rules, that sort of thing. And and want to be good. I had someone in class who said, well, it's not that I want to be so good, I just don't want to be bad. And so it's like, well, they're related because you got the message early. If you're bad, something bad will happen. So, but you're not thinking of it that way. You just go there. So you believe there will be negative outcomes if your belief is not fulfilled. So if I lead with type 2, which by the way, in the old days, we used to say, I am a 1, I am a 2, I am a 3. Now we say, I lead with, because you're not a number. This is something you do. Clarence Thompson talked about this decades ago. This is not who you are. It's something you do. It's automatic, and it feels safe to do it, and it feels good to do it. The problem is there's consequences because we overdo it, and we distort it. It's deeply satisfying and energizing when you're in your type. You'll hear people in the Enneagram will say, well, I was in my type. It's kind of like a complex in Jungian terms. Once you're in the complex, it's too late to do anything. You got to catch it early, and it comes up through the body first, if you can catch it in the body first. You lead with it. It is not your identity. I can't tell you how many people want it to be their identity. Well, I'm a 2, I'm a 3, I'm a 4. You do that. You're not a number. Growth begins by recognizing your patterns, pausing so that you have a choice. They call it a choice point. Breathing into it. Even you can do things in the body to calm the body where the energy is in the body and allow a different way of being in the world. It's not something you can make happen. It's allowing something different to appear. Transformation cannot be forced through thinking, darn. Growth is more about letting go and is an ongoing process. So sometimes people go to an Enneagram class and they say, I got it, I'm fine now. Well, first of all, your type is going to keep coming up the rest of your life. It's about self-managing it better. It's not about getting there. It's not about perfection. It's about being less extreme in your type. because there's good things about every type. We don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Helen Palmer is sort of the main person I studied under. I studied under a number of people, but she's sort of like the beginning big person. She had a phrase I liked, that's the Enneagram describes what separates us from ourselves, others, and God. Now, if you don't like the word God, I don't care what they are, universe, whatever, Darth Vader, whatever feels good to you. But basically, it's describing what we do that we think is good for us. It feels good, you get this emotional charge, but it's causing problems for you and others. So there's the motivation for learning it. So key points to notice. What are you afraid will happen if you do not respond to this belief? This is something you can ask yourself later, once you know your type. Because that's what's happening. You feel like if I don't do this, horrible things could happen. What do you feel inside when your belief is not fulfilled? And notice how little energy and attention you give to the other 8 beliefs. So yours, it's like, yeah, I've got to do that one. And the other's like, that's not so hard. And it's like the other's growth path is easy for you, and you go, why won't they change? It's so easy. But yours isn't easy to change. Yeah, we're going to tell her something. So, yours isn't easy to change, you'll see. And it's not so much change as relax. It's easier said than done. But, people do mellow, but it doesn't happen overnight. Awareness comes first. So type 1, okay, we have 2 names up here. Back when I got certified 25 years ago, whatever it was, there were names for each number, nicknames I call them. And each author has a different nickname for those numbers because it's a copyright issue. The model is not copyrighted, that diagram, but the names are. Well, they are going through a change right now at the narrative program where I went with Helen Palmer, and they're trying to find more user-friendly. Younger people have come in and made it better. And so they've made it more user-friendly. So your diagram isn't going to match this perfectly. Don't worry about that. The old name used to be perfectionist. The problem is type 1 type people. Well, I'm not perfect, so I'm not that one. So it's about striving for perfection. So they changed it to the improver, which actually has a softer sound to it and actually describes it, I think, a little better. So, it's up to you on whether you think it's better or not. Okay, the belief is you can learn worthiness and love by being good, correcting mistakes, and satisfying the demands of your critical mind. They tend to be self-critical and critical of others because they have these high standards and think that everybody should do this or ought to do that or shouldn't do this or that. And their language when they talk is full of ought and should. So there's body language and talking style for every type. So just off the top of my head, I'll tell you the ones I remember off the top of my head. But for ones, they would come to class and they'd sit well in their chair and they'd take copious notes, make sure they get everything. So the 2s come in and they're a more relaxed type, and they sit in the chair and they just want to visit with the person next to them. And it's like, oh, how are you? What are you doing? So when they're trying to relate, the ones are trying to get it right. So they aren't consciously thinking, well, I'm not worthy unless I get it right. They just know if I don't, bad things will happen. And it's just an unconscious drive back there doing that. The behavior, the other thing they do, this is, I lead with type 1. We tend to be very precise. So my language comes from I'm trying to get it right so that you can get it right. So that's all driven by my Enneagram type. they tend to point a lot. And so I learned to quit doing that because it's not helpful. People pay attention to the finger instead of you. And you're trying to make sure they get it right, but they're not listening because they're watching the finger. That's a cute metaphor for how the Enneagram works. It's like, you think you're getting it right, but it's not. So they tend to be critical and deny pleasures. They wait until all the tasks are done before they let pleasure in. Now, that's not a great deal, is it? So they don't tend to be they don't get a lot of goodies for their type. Helen said the 1s and the 6s don't get a lot of goodies for their type, but that's why it's good for the others to watch them because they're more motivated to grow. Because it's like they don't have as much to give up. Like a 7. So, some sample inner thoughts. I must be responsible. I have to avoid being wrong. I got to get it right. I should, I ought. And they overdo the should and ought. I'm not saying that's never good to do that. Sometimes you should stop at the stop sign. That's not a bad thing. And there's nothing about the type that's bad. It's when we overdo it and kind of distort it. And now I have to, and you do too. So they may tell people what to do all the time. That was hard because I was the boss at work. So that our culture reinforces some of these types too, like type 3, we're a type 3 culture. And there's no reason to think there's anything wrong with you because the culture says it's good, but it's not helping you in an evolutionary way. So it's more like they're just loaded with frustration and resentment because the world isn't what it should be. And so that's not a great way to live, is it? Wouldn't it be nice if you leave with type 1 to be able to relax that a little bit and have some kindness towards yourself? I came up with phrases early on that I could use, like, I don't have to save the world. I don't have to do everyone else's work. I don't have to do this and that. You learn, it's not a thinking thing, but it's a realization. You get rewarded for some of these things, and you learn that maybe I'm willing to sacrifice that reward to have a better life. So there's things you can explore if you leave with type 1. What would happen if you did what you wanted instead of what you should or should not do? What do I want in this situation? So if I think I need to go do this and I have to do this, and this, and I go, but what do I want to do? Ones, when they're unaware, don't ask themselves that question. They just do it. And then they end up with frustration and resentment because they see other people not doing it and they're having fun, and that's no good. So it's about better balance than that. Type 2, the giver, the belief, I think that name stayed the same. The belief you can gain love and have your needs met by giving others what they want and need and hope that they will give back. So 2s do not take care of their own needs. They see it as, I have to give to others. They have one should, I have to give. I have to give to others because if I don't, they'll leave me. There's the motivation. So it's not everybody in the room, it's the special others in their lives, and I have to take care of their needs. The problem is that gets distorted to a pride of, I know better than you do, so I'm going to take care of your needs the way I think it should be done. So they do things and maybe the other person doesn't even want it. And then there's an expectation of return that after all I did for you, you did not do what I wanted, and I didn't have to know what you wanted. You should know what I want without me having to tell you. Someone's laughing, someone's mother is this way. So they're wonderful, warm people. Their challenge is learning how to give without that expectation of return and being able to discern when that's going on the inside. So if this belief you're going to lose love, well, what are you gonna do? You're gonna do everything you can for that other person so they won't leave, but it may drive them to leave. Because it can feel intrusive and, teens have trouble setting boundaries there. So they need to learn to sort of pay attention that a good thing to say for them to speak is, do you want this, as opposed to, here, you need this. Good thing for ones to say is not, well, here's the way it is. Here's a good thing they can change that to is, here's another way to say it, or, how would I put it? I would put it as, here's another way to see it, or another idea, do you want to hear it? As opposed to forcing the opinion down. So we learn how to say things better so that people will hear us better. Yeah, that's a good one, okay. So they're overly helpful. They can be seen as manipulative and needy, which they're like, I'm taking care of everybody else's needs. How can you see me as needy? But they see it that way because you're expecting them to take care of your needs on demand, because after all you've done, so they can see you as needy. They want to go through the back door to get what they need. They want you to take care of it. And so they'll use excessive flattery to sort of get you in their graces and whatever. That's a talking language kind of thing, speaking style, that you can notice if someone uses a lot of flattery, they might lead with two. Sample inner thought, I must be seen as exceptionally generous and caring and do a sterling job of taking care of others. So when we were going through the program to certify, we had to do interviews and film them and have coaches evaluate them and so on. And one of the things I learned from that process is, if you ask a two, are you good at giving, or do you like to give? Yes. Do you think you give better than other people give? Yes. Mm-hmm. Most people will say, no, I give about the same as everybody else, but a two knows they're better. So that's a clue. So you want to explore what happens if you do not get payback when you receive a gift or favor. So I know someone who's a two, and if I do something for this person or give this person something, a gift or something always comes back immediately. They're uncomfortable owing. They don't see it as I give to get. They see it as I give with an expectation of return, but they want to keep it so they don't owe you, because they get nervous. They don't take care of themselves because they're so nervous that if I take time to take care of me, that's time away from me taking care of you, and then bad things can happen. So what do you feel when you take care of your needs? Anxiety. The twos show me they feel a lot of anxiety come up if they take care of. Now, I know twos as they've gotten older and they take care of their needs and they've gotten better at this. We're talking about the pure type two without influence from the wings and so on. You tend to get more of what you really want when you realize yourself. So what they really want is for people to want them without having to give. They want freedom from the cycle of having to give, but they're afraid if that happens, they'll leave. So it's like the hamster in the roll kind of thing. Type 3, the performer. Here's the USA. So just think of our culture, wearing the right watch, driving the right car. These are the chameleons. They'll be the way they think they need to be in the situation to be successful. Success and goals at all costs. You can gain love and acceptance, the belief and recognition through performing, doing, winning, and success. So 1s and 3s tend to be taskmasters, and they can look alike on the outside. I remember doing a dyad with somebody in my class, and I said, I can't believe how much we look alike. And she says, yeah, but I don't care anything about perfection. I only care what people think. Oh. So it's tricky typing people because you don't know what's really going on the inside. This is a self-typing system. You want to allow people to type themselves. People try to get me to type them, I will not do it. I will give you my thoughts. Oh, I heard a lot of this, I heard a lot of that, but you'll miss out on the exploration if I tell you your time. Sample inner thoughts, I must be respected for being successful. They walk into a room and they start talking about who they are. You know, well, I do this and I'm this, I'm a CEO, I'm this, I'm that. I think Pete Hegseth is a poster child for you if you know who he is. You know, it's that energy, I mean, high energy people, get it done, goals at all costs. Cut corners if you need to, just make it happen. They're not bad people. None of these people are bad people. I know threes who are wonderful. It's just, this is their suffering. The Enneagram describes our suffering. And they cause suffering for themselves. So we want to relax that suffering. The behaviors, workaholism, they never stop. They're like sharks. Helen Palmer said her advice for threes is easy. The word stop. They can't stop. It's just if they are moving on to the next goal, they can't win. They can't be seen as successful. If they stop, feelings come up and anxiety from those feelings. And I'm nobody if I don't perform and I don't succeed. So they're this way with this group, this way with that group. They'll be what they need to be seen that way. They're quite talented and smart and quick and hard workers. It's the US model of workaholism. Explore what if you accomplish less to allow reflections on your feelings. If I say that to a three, they're gonna go, like, that's blasphemy. What are you saying? You know, they're just like, don't ask me to do that. What happens inside when you notice they thought that? They know, here's the suffering. So they know when they have performed, they've done a good job at work and they bought the act. But that never satisfies, because if you know it was just an act, they never did think you were great for who you are. They thought the act was great. For the individualists, that's the new name for them. It started off as tragic romantic, they changed it to romantic, now it's the individualist. A much nicer name than tragic romantic. The belief you can restore the lost ideal love or situation by creating a unique and deeply fulfilling version of it. So there's this sense of knowing there's an ideal job out there, there's an ideal relationship out there, you know, lots of ideal stuff. So they move towards it and they're attracted to it. And they get up close and it's got flaws, because there is no such thing as something that's totally a wonderful ideal job and totally wonderful person. Real life shows up. So they back off and they go, it must be over there. And so they move towards that, and this disappointment all the time. And then they call it like a rubber band effect. And move towards them, back. Oh, maybe it was you. And I'll go back. And they're always, it's a grass is greener thing. Oh, I don't like where I'm living now. I think I'll move over there. And they don't have any sense that feeling about how everything has issues and problems, people, jobs, issues. I know it exists out there, the unknowing. You know, as they get older, they recognize that a little more, that reality shows up. So they tend to be dramatic. So the behavior, they may create a crisis, let feelings run the show, attraction to the unavailable. They prefer, I think, to live at the extremes of the emotions. They live either in the depths of depression or exhilaration over here. There's not a lot in the middle. That's too ordinary and boring. And it's not where you get the juice. They are attracted to the emotional juice. Sample inner thoughts. I am better or I am less than. They're always comparing. Their habit is called envy. Envy is not jealousy. Jealousy has a sort of meaner spirit to it. Envy is just, they have it, I don't, because of who I am, because I'm flawed. Let's throw in a deep sigh in there. It's just the way it is. And so there's this sense of a different kind of entitlement of, because I've suffered more than others, I deserve this over here. So they go back between and forth between high and low, high and low. They can explore, what if you could allow yourself to be seen as ordinary in the eyes of others? That's like saying, here, drink your prune juice. It's like, no. And what happens if you let go of the story? They live in a story, whether it's true or not. They live in the past, and the future of what could be in the past, and how awful it was. And they suffer for decades with it. They don't move on. So it's like, well, because, my mother, my brother, my whatever, I'm just never going to get over it. And it's not about getting over it, it's moving on in spite of it. It's living with the sadness of whatever it was. Living with the grief. I had a grief therapist friend who put it real well. You learn to walk with the grief instead of under it. They walk under it. And they take other people's stories and sadness, and they're self-referencing, like, oh gosh, I had a terrible time last week. My friend found out she was really ill and so on. And next thing you know, conversations about them. Yes, I had that too. And they go on, and they're empathizing. It's not, they're the great empathizers, but they turn it around and make it about them. So, anyhow, and letting go of the story of, what if that story can just be and you move on in spite of it. Go 5. Do you need a moment pause now that we've gone through 4? Now, which ones are what? Remember, you're going to get a copy. It will be easier later. It's a lot to take in right now. That's why I tried to put as much as I could on here. Type 5, the observer. Think of a monk. That's sort of an image you might have. The belief you can protect yourself from intrusion and scarcity by maintaining privacy, relying on yourself, limiting desires, and gaining knowledge. They have a belief that the world will overwhelm them, and that I have to take measures to make sure it doesn't, because I won't survive it. All the types, they unconsciously have this sense of I won't make it through it. So they're actually very controlling people. They're good at keeping you at a distance to make sure it doesn't happen. So they tend not to, they may live very simply, because they just want to make sure they never have to be in debt to somebody else, and then they could overwhelm them. And they wouldn't have a choice because they need their help. Mm. The behavior or time and energy, isolation from feelings, longing for connection. So this strategy works real well in life. You get rewarded because you're the smartest person in the room. And then you get rewarded at work. And then at midlife, you get lonely. And they come out. And guess what? Everyone else has been living life for 20 years. But emotionally, they're not at that age at that point. So they come out and it's awkward and difficult for them. And then the world kind of feels a little too much, and they go back down in the hole again. Sample inner thoughts. Question. I have to ensure my privacy and know more. I had 1-5 tell me I need to be the smartest person in the room. It tends to be in an esoteric area. It's not like the 7s who are jack of all trades. It's like I have this one specialty and I'm the expert. I'm guessing Peter Hotez is like this. I mean, he's got that specialty going. And that is named the guy who deals with the COVID virus and everything. I love him. Anyhow, but he's like someone I would guess might be a 5. I don't know. You know, explore. What if you spent more time interacting with others? We'll stop right there. That's enough to make them say, whoa, no, that's it, no. And if they're with someone else, they prefer to have something physically between them. It's an unconscious thing. They may get behind a sofa at a party, or they need to know somebody who's going to be there who they can get with. So anyhow, sharing feelings in the moment. What they do is they're actually very sensitive feeling people, but they stay in their heads a lot. And so with an interaction, especially the more emotional it gets, they kind of just go in their heads for safety, and they play the tape back later and feel the feelings later when they're alone. So simple inner thoughts I can share and no more. Explore. What if you spend more time interacting with others and sharing feelings in the moment? What happens if you're not the smartest in the room? I mean, these are things to ask yourself, like, why would I want to do that? I mean, if you react negatively to this stuff, that's a clue it's your time. If you find one of these foods, it's like, you know, like I have a video of Helen talking to a panel of 3s, and she said, well, what if you just want to hang out?
Ending soon, so come say goodbye.
So what if you just want to hang out? Don't you want to just hang out sometime? And she was like, you know, you're trying to kill me. You know, it's like hang out is not in their vocabulary. And it's scary and threatening. So anyhow. Any questions at this point? Gone through quite a bit. You're probably just going, oh, I can't remember that slide. And so, okay, type 6, a questioner, loyal skeptics. They have a lot of names here. I'm going to start off first saying they're the only Enneagram type that has 2 variations of phobic and counterphobic. The primary habit, and we're not going through all the primary habits here, but the primary emotional habit is a fear of uncertainty. So this fear, but they tend to be fearful of a lot of things. So phobic, they're both driven by fear, phobic and counterphobic. Phobic types, 6s, tend to retreat when something's fearful. Counterphobic 6s go into the fear as a way of not having to feel. So they have trouble typing themselves because they go, I'm not fearful. You know, I climb mountains and I do weekend warrior stuff or whatever. Just know that there's 2 kinds here. I'm going to throw this out there. There's 3 types that's called subtypes, which you don't need to even write down or remember. I just want you to think about it. There's a variation in the 6s out there, in the 5s out there. Not all 5s are alike, not all 4s are alike. There's other influences from that diagram. But I'm going to give you an example of the 3 subtypes of 6 because they have so much trouble typing themselves sometimes. So the first one does this interior thinking of, if I show mental warmth, and it's not conscious, if I show mental warmth and affection, they're less likely to harm me. So we call those the warm 6s. There's a sense of, if I'm warm and they like me, they're less likely to hurt me, but the fear is driving it. So when they 6s walk into a room, they kind of unconsciously scan the environment to make sure there's no danger. Just checking it out. That group does the warm approach. Then if I'm loyal and devoted to the group, they're more likely to come to my aid if I need it, or my family needs it. You spend a lot of sixes or any type will spend a lot of energy in the primary subtype. The last subtype for six, if I show intellectualism and or attractiveness, I feel more confident to go out to the world and stronger. And they tend to look a little more aggressive. The other kind of sixes look less aggressive. They don't look aggressive, they look like they're warm and nice and fuzzy. So, cushion.
What was the description for the first?
First one is if I show mental warmth and affection, they're more likely to not to harm me.
But how did you describe it? Well, that's describing it, but there was one word or maybe two words.
Well, they're warm, they tend to be warm. The action, we're not going in the subtypes, but I'll tell you, it's called the self-preservation six.
Okay, that may have been it.
I probably accidentally did. It's just how I think, it comes out. They're actually, first one's called self-preservation, the second social, the third one, one-to-one. But, so this fear plays out three different ways, and it's the way the world experiences them. You move in and out of those three things all day long, depending on what's going on in your life. You don't change your type, you just relax it. Okay, so, belief, we didn't do belief yet, okay. So I must have certainty before moving forward and have all my doubts settled. So the interesting thing is, the sixes I've worked with think they're very positive people. And so they're like, yeah, I'm positive, I'm an optimist. And if you ask other people around them, especially sevens and threes, they're going to say, no, they are not positive. They're always going, yes, but, yes, but, yes, but. It's just once they get all their doubts done, yeah, everything's fine, I can move forward. But it's not how others perceive them. So they tend to like to fly under the radar, out of the limelight, so they can be saved. Sevens like to fly out of the limelight at times, so they can do what they want. So see how the behavior's the same, but it's for different reasons. So just like the one and the three can look alike, but it's for different reasons. Ones are doing it to be right, to be good. Threes are doing it to get the applause. That's why I don't like typing tests. They don't ask for the motivation behind it.
I don't ask the right questions.
Yeah. And that is why. Okay, not that some people can't find their type on it, but I can't tell you how many people have come to classes and say, but I did this test and it didn't turn out. Okay. So the behavior is to avoid possible danger, push-pull with authority. They pay attention to the authority, they watch the authority, and they can't stand that they do this. So is that they have this need to do that. And they're loyal to a fault. I put loyalty to a fault. And they're loyal longer than they should. It's where it's not good for anybody. So the other thing about the behavior is, and particularly I find with the counter sixes, the counterphobic sixes, they are very intense. And so that alone can kind of make people a little nervous. But sixes check you out because they're unconsciously checking you out. Can I trust this person? And how do I know what they're saying is true? I've had sixes tell me, how do I know she really knows this Enneagram stuff? So everybody meet a six. So no one else is doing that. They think everybody's thinking that and that everybody does that. Other people go, well, let's see what she says. Sixes going, how do I know? Let me check it out. So they have this antenna out there checking inauthentic behavior. And they can smell it a mile away when this didn't match up with that. They're keeping track. speaking of keeping track, twos keep track of every time you did not think.
That you did not what?
Thank them.
Thank them.
Oh,
So these people track, is that behavior consistent with what they're thinking? So how do I know this person's trustworthy? So when you go someplace in an Enneagram class and you meet people and you don't know them, you know, the different types act different ways. And the sixes, the antenna's coming out. Is this one okay? And people know something's different, but they don't know what it is. They don't know what you're doing. And so they might go, something's off here, I don't know. And now you act a little strange. And then they go, I knew it, there's something wrong. So it's an interesting interaction. And not that they are this way all the time. It's just when they feel threatened, triggered, whatever, where their belief isn't going to get fulfilled. But they are that type all the time. They just, whether they relax it or not, they lead with it. So explore what happens when you quit looking under rocks to find certainty. Because if you keep looking under rocks, you're going to find creepy crawlers. The problem is the world does not offer safety and security. So you go looking for uncertainty or certainty. It's a part of the process. Then you're going to find stuff. It's learning to live with an uncertain world. Having faith in spite of the fear. Moving through it, not waiting till it's gone, all the danger's gone. What happens if you trust yourself solely when making decisions? So I have a good one for you. Okay, so I'm from the IT world. My husband did not, he's a little older than I am and did not grow up with computers. So, of course, before we got married, he had to ask all his friends, well, what do you think? They check with everyone. What do you think? You think this is okay? And one of his friends found out I was a computer person. And he said, you've married well. Do it. You'll marry well. You need that computer help. So, check. Make sure they might know something. The nice flip of that is if they're running a group, they like everybody to be heard. They want to hear from everybody. So, because then you can find more problems and get them fixed before you move forward. So what happens if you trust yourself solely when making decisions? There'll be some discomfort because maybe I haven't covered everything. They're like a dog with a bone. It's like, one more thing to check out, one more. So, whoops. There we go. Okay. 7, the enthusiast used to be X. You like the new name better?
I do.
Yes.
Yes. I'm enthusiastic about it.
The belief is you can avoid frustration and pain and create a good life by pursuing options, opportunities, and adventures. So there's this big fear of pain and boredom. So, on Friday night, they have 3 things lined up in case the first one's not good. You might have to leave it and go to the second one because it's got to stay up and stimulating and interesting. And I'm just not going to let that boredom creep in. So the behavior is, well, they're highly energetic. They're very smart, good at taking disparate information and making connections. And they're great at ideas, coming up with creative ideas. I call it idea tripping. That's what they like to do. But the follow through isn't so good, and then they'll find someone else to push it to. And then go work on something else, some other wonderful idea and creative area, and go, I'm still doing my job. But they didn't do what their boss told them to do. And that's because they equalize authority. They go, well, I'm the same as you. I don't have to do what you say. So I'm going to do what I want to do. they're very kind, generous people, but they're gonna make sure they get their needs first. But they ensure that's gonna happen. But they will sacrifice for the group at times, you know, they don't look like it's all about me, but they make sure their needs get taken care of. Just the opposite of the twos, they don't take care of their needs at all. So when somebody says, well, I'm a 2 or a 7, I said, how good are you at taking care of your own needs when they come up? And the 7 go, got him. And the 2's like, well, not so much. So they don't look like they're a fear-based type. That's part of the class later on. But they know what they're running from. So the behavior is planning with limited follow-through, overload from gluttony for excitement, and equalize authority. Those are some of the things they do. So it's kind of a frenetic state at times. Now, I had a friend who just traveled and had an exotic trip and came home and said, you know, jet lag, the whole works, and she's a 7, just love her. And she said, oh yeah, I really needed to relax. I needed 15 minutes. And so her idea of taking a break was 15 minutes. The rest of us are recovering a week later. You know, so it's like, whoops, some boredom could be creeping in, and I got to make sure I get things locked up. I got to ensure that's not going to happen. So simple inner thoughts. I must have multiple options and freedom to explore interesting ideas and experience. Do you want to say anything about that, Ginger?
Well, I'm just thinking in college, when they said you have to have a major, it was like, oh no, only one. And I became a music therapist, which is psychology and music. You know, it's just like always wanting to have many options and variety, and but also depth, because you know, I think because the 7 goes towards the 5, I go in long meditation.
I'll tell you about
and
the depth.
stop.
The
And
depth is only for things they're vastly interested in.
that is true.
Yes.
That is true.
And there can be tremendous depth
Yeah.
when they're fascinated by something.
Yeah.
Who is that guy on YouTube? It's a science guy. I can't think of his name. He's real interesting.
Tyson,
Hmm?
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Nielsen types,
Yes,
not him,
Tyson.
yeah. He's gotta be a 7. He's gotta leave a 7. I mean, his mind's going all over the place. He's having fun, you know, nothing's boring for this guy. You know, he'd be somebody interesting to be with. So not having options feels like death. Now, how many of us don't like having options? Do I see any hands? You don't want any options in life.
No, I want
Yeah,
options.
you want options, yeah. How many of us don't want them? Of course we all want them. We all want what all these types want, but we don't feel like we're gonna die if we don't. 7s are like, real bad things are gonna happen.
You don't want to be trapped.
Yeah, trapped is panic time. The rest of us go, I might be bored, I can wait through my phone, whatever. 7 panics. So that can be a clue for you. Okay, what if you put less on the calendar to make more time to be in the present? They want to make sure there's plenty there just in case some of that nasty boredom shows up. So what if you purposely, what you do, you've been doing this work for a long time, you go to retreats. What happens when you do not have backup plans for when boredom sets in? What am I running from? There's a panic when our belief does not get fulfilled. When our belief that I can avoid frustration and pain, oh my God, I may not be able to avoid frustration and pain. The rest of us are like, I don't like it, but I don't think about it. And I certainly don't plan my schedule to make sure I don't. Type 8, the protector. The belief you can protect yourself and earn respect by developing strength, power, and hiding vulnerability. The counterphobic 6 looks like an 8 on the outside. They're just as energetic and strong and tough thinking, but the 6, the counterphobic 6 will have a twinge of fear before they go into attack mode. These people act, then think. Have any of you been watching the series on Netflix on the presidents? Did you watch Teddy Roosevelt host or John Day? They have such good things about them, and they have things people aren't happy with, just like every time. The behavior, dominance and control of their space, they can be bullying, confuse justice with revenge. They, from their perspective, when they do revenge, it's justice, because justice just moves them tremendously. Justice has to happen when there's been a wrong. And they think justice and revenge are the same. So people experience that revenge. And then, of course, they may attack back, which helps justify the action to begin with. They're my enemy now. I do think I see our president as this.
Only slightly.
Well, there's actually a lot of discussion in the Enneagram world about whether the president was a 3 or an 8. And I think the thing that settled it, because he's always talking about winning, and 3s are all about winning. But he's into loyalty big time. 6s and 8s are big into loyalty. Loyalty's huge to 8s. I never hear 3s talk about loyalty. So my opinion, it's just an opinion. Okay. Sample inner thought, I must be powerful and strong and avoid weakness at all costs. They can't stand wimps, cowards. Remember that scene in Patton, for those of you who are old enough to remember the movie Patton, and he slapped that soldier because he had a not so courageous moment? So that comes from denying their own vulnerability and weakness. And I hate seeing that in others. But if someone's truly vulnerable, whether they like them or not, they're there to help you. You know, you're a little old lady and you dropped your bag in the street and someone's grabbing it. They don't know you from Adam. They're going to go get that guy. You know. Explore what if you pause before acting and use less force and energy. Actually, I find 8s really like the Enneagram. I've been surprised. So people want to know, how do I deal with them? Because they tend to be bosses and a force in life. So I had an 8 in one of my classes one time. This was in a business setting. And I had these cards that you rank. This one's most like me, this is second most, and so on. And so people were supposed to do the exercise. Well, they'll push your button, try to make you angry because they believe the truth comes out in anger. And so they don't want to necessarily play the game. And so I went over to the guy and I can see everybody else is doing the exercise. And he's like, playing with the card, whatever. So, do you need some help? Maybe this one, I have 5. And I said, do you want to look at this some more? No, I don't know. I said, are you thinking right now, if this isn't any good, I'm out here? And he said, yes. And he loved that I did it and wanted to hire me to teach his group. Because that is how you treat an 8. They test you and they push you and they want to see how you respond, and they want a strong reaction back. But you better be confident. They'll have you for lunch if you're not, but they want you to stand up to them. They love it when you're a force back and have energy back. They respect you when you do that.
They like a fight.
Yeah, they actually think picking a fight sometimes leads to the truth. Not all, anyhow, I had this guy who came to class. And he was quiet, and he mentioned later that he leads with 8. And I was real surprised because 8s aren't generally quiet and calm. They're highly energetic and want to get into every experience fully. Whoops, energetically. And so they want to just, have the full experience. And he was sitting back and he said, I've learned to listen. That is what they need to do, is pull back, listen, don't act first, listen, moderate it. They need to moderate their tongue. The expression we use in class is, they use a hammer for a fly swatter. So they need to learn how to use the fly swatter. It depends on the situation.
Oh, so much.
Okay. 9, good, you can stay there. And 9 is the mediator, the belief. You can find belonging and comfort by attending to and merging with others and redirecting your energy to other activities. I will put less important activities, less important to you. So they tend to put others' priorities ahead of their own. Because how many of you like conflict unless you're an 8? The rest of you don't like conflict, okay? But they take it to an extreme, avoid conflict at all costs. And of course, that interferes with intimacy, emotional intimacy, because conflict is needed in a relationship to have true emotional intimacy. I heard one time that if a couple never argues, someone's lying. So the behaviors go along, get along, don't make waves. But then they might resent it that they did it, but they still choose it because it's more comfortable. Self-forgetting, meaning everyone else has priority, and they sort of see everybody's points of view and take their point of view, which is wonderful. They make wonderful mediators, but we want them to include themselves as well as the others. Might be passive aggressive. They really don't like it if you push them. They get really mad. And when they finally do bring up their opinion, they've let you do everything you wanted all this time, and they finally do it and you brush them off, that makes them really mad. Simple inner thought, I must maintain a peaceful environment and prevent conflict. So peace at all costs. If I can just make sure everybody around me is happy, then I can go off and sort of do my own thing or veg out or just feel peaceful and have comfort. Explore what happens if you present an opposing opinion. What happens if you speak up when everybody else is saying, well, I think this instead. And what if your priorities matter as much as others? That's that tunnel, that their belief is the world is this way. Theirs matter more than mine. And it's just not true. Okay, some of my favorite resources. I love this app called Know Your Type. And you'll get this when if you download this. Beginning book, this is my favorite beginning book. It's got cartoons, but it actually has some meat in it. They have a little test at the beginning of each chapter, but you know how I feel about that. So I'm not happy about that. Online videos, Helen Palmer's group, the Narrative Enneagram.com, that's where I have the bulk of my information from. They have a place where you can look at Enneagram types, and they'll have 4 videos of real people of that type talking to you about their type. And here's the most important thing. Oh, it's not showing up too well because it's at the bottom. The HTTPS semicolon thing.
Yeah.
The first one's bit.ly/Judy Enneagram. Now you have to learn how to spell Enneagram. So that's the hard part. And then underneath, something's covering it. Same thing, bit.ly/Judy Enneagram Doc. That's that handout I gave you. This is thanks to Sarah. Otherwise, you would not have a copy of this presentation because we don't have your email address. So, yay, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
So, anyhow, these are just a couple little things here. And the next Enneagram class is what you call the spring semester at the Young Center. Starts in January through May, and just go to younghouston.org, or do you want to go to Community for Consciousness? Alrighty, so let's do some questions. When do I start? Oh, we have questions.
Well, can you put it back on the screen that had the link?
There.
Thank you.
And the next link too.
Yes, it's younghouston.org.
The video, that's the narrative. Can you say if my eyes are?
Oh, yeah, I know. The Narrative Enneagram. So you have two E's here. .org. EnneagramNarrative.org. And they have, that's where I did my training. And they teach using the panel method plus information like this. So I'll wait till y'all are through with this, and then there was a question, another question, Mark.
Judy, what can you tell us about the origins of all of this? What do we know about its
well,
creation?
Yeah, it's pretty old. When I first went, they said thousands of years old, so we don't have those documents. It came down through the oral tradition where maybe a mystic teacher would be a spiritual director or something for someone. And there was talk at one time about going to the Sufis, and I heard, oh, they don't have any proof of that. They don't have a lot of proof of what happened. They just know it's an ancient personality system. Because what this says to me is we have not changed for thousands of years. This is not, this is amazing to me that this describes us so well once you get into it, that it's been this way a long time.
Cross-culturally.
Cross-cultural. Half of my class, not California, were from other countries.
Yeah.
But it's just so true. It's just bizarre that how true it is about people. Even when you don't know this about yourself. And sometimes when I do an interview, I go, I know this person better than a native know themselves, because no one has ever told me these things. It's just, yeah.
I have a question about are different cultures, like you talk about the States being very three as a culture. What would you say about other cultures? Is there?
Well, there's talk about that. I mean, people have written about it. I don't have proof, but think about the UK. They appear to be very one-like. Excuse me, I'm going to rob you. Would you please give me your wallet? They're very proper the way a one might be. Italy's got to be a 7. I don't know. French 4. These are opinions only. Singapore is probably like the US 3. So Mexico, I'm guessing 2.
Yes.
You can kind of see these things. I mean, it's what I call a cultural overlay. So if you lead with 3 and your culture's 3, why would you change?
Sure.
Sure. It's hard. Yes.
What's the United States?
3.
Carl Jung got into this. And is his a different perspective than everybody else's?
It's totally separate. It's apples and oranges. Other than this describes parts of yourself that you don't want to see. So I also learned from Sister Lois, who was a Jungian analyst, and she said this describes your shadow signs. So it's got that relationship. Anything that shows you parts about yourself you don't want to see, is gonna relate to all of those. But yeah,
And on your diagram, each one has an individual arrow that goes to something else. How can you describe that relationship briefly?
okay, that's your stress point and your security point.
Mm-hmm.
And so 6 under stress moves to 3 and takes on the thinking, acting, feeling, not of just 6, but 3. So they're gonna look a little more go-getter. I don't care about your feelings, gotta get it done. They need to go to 9, where 9s, 6s make molehills out of mountains. 9s make mountains out of, no, I'm saying it backwards. 9s make molehills out of mountains, 6s do the reverse. So if 9s overdo, yeah, laid back, whatever, it doesn't matter, go along to get along. 6s could use a little more of that. When 6s are that way, they don't become a 9, they become a higher functioning 6.
Hmm.
And then your stress point, you pick up the thinking. Yeah, Dina.
Judy, I just love this. I really love this. Each slide, I have thought that was my type. I said type 1, I was like, that's me. Went to type 2, I said type 2, that's me. You know, and I cringed on each type because you said it'd be cringe. I love the whole concept. I would be afraid of mistyping myself.
Yeah, and you should be at this point. So you don't have enough knowledge yet really to know it. But I will tell you something. Just because I know you, I'd be surprised if you're this type, but 9s have a lot of frustration when they first learn it because they see themselves in every type because they merge with every type and take on their thinking. But 9s have a lot of trouble speaking their opinion. I know 9s who are good at that. They've grown. My favorite back there. But generally that it's not comfortable. It's never comfortable for them to go against. Against feels like separation. You can have characteristics. There's many lookalikes in the Enneagram. You have to go to the motivation. The motivation, like with the 1 and the 3. She was doing it to get the applause, taskmaster, get it done. I was doing it because you're supposed to do it, and it's a good thing to do. So if you don't do that, you can't get to it.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So you're going to share a lot of characteristics. 2s think they're 7s, and 9s and 5s, and get confused. Am I 9 or 5? And that's normal. And also, you had those 2 numbers next to you, you're sandwiched in between them, the neighbors. You're going to pick up some of that thinking, acting, feeling. Something would be very strange if you thought you were only one of those types. You should show up in 4 to 5 because you're stressed sometimes, not others. You have the subtypes that operate differently in the world but are still driven by the core habit. It's complicated. Their centers, like the 2, 3, 4s in the heart center, they tend to, when they speak, they say, I feel. 5, 6, 7s are in the head center. They tend to speak and say, I think, I feel.
So what will we learn in the class at the Young Center?
Oh my God.
How will that happen?
The centers, the subtypes, the wings, the arrows, the motivations, why you operate the way you do. I couldn't cover it in this class, sorry. Yeah.
And when I took the class with you, I found that you do get more clarity about where you fit in. You may not narrow it down to one, but you do start to narrow it down and understand what to look for in more depth. And I'm a 9, and I still look at all the other numbers and go, oh yeah, maybe that. No, I'm still a 9.
So I'll give you a trick. When reading the others, you can cross things off and go, but I'm not like that about 2s. I'm not like that about 3s. And then you get to your 9 number. If you leave with 9, you go, I do all of them. There's none I can cross off.
Well, Judy, I was telling you in the beginning that when I took the Enneagram course in Mexico, the teacher just said, mill around the room
Yeah.
and find your people. And so we all just sort of talked to each other until we went, oh, you're just like me. And then there were all these different groups. And then you sort of self-identified by, you know, who really gets how you tick.
It's called separated at birth. Can you help me with this? Where's our kids?
He had to leave, so what do we
Okay.
need to do?
I want to go to the flash drive.
Okay. Well, that's great.
Is it over now? When was I supposed to see it?
Okay, so let me see. I will do that.
Okay, here, click that red thing. I know
That would end everything.
that's okay. Well, I want to end everything.
Oh,
But
okay.
that ends the people.
Well, we didn't say, before we do that, do any of the people online have a question?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Hello.
If you so type it.
Thank you for remembering. Don't count on me to follow the agenda here.
Sarah's-
The technology. Sarah's gonna help you. Sarah,
All right, we're gonna end the online meeting.
I'm gonna say this.
yeah, I want to look at the flash drive. I want to open a video.
That's all.
I want to.
There's a comment.
Some applause.
This chat. Actually, all I want you to do is go to flash drive. You don't have to end it. I just want you to go to the flash. There it is, your feed.
I like that.
All right. All right, I want to go to the head panel. Right there. Yeah.
While we're wrestling with that, let me just say that if you would like to join us for a little further discussion and perhaps a meal, the Black Walnut, which I mentioned at the beginning, is that if you go to Rice Boulevard down to Morningside, it's right adjacent to the parking garage into the Rice Village. So you can easily park in that parking garage and it's right next to it. And then let us be sure to remind you again that our next speaker will be Ginger Clarkson on her hospice work. And that is August 16th.
Do this one too.
Judy, Jenny, is there anything else we need to
Okay,
tell these
I'll
people?
do, if you need to leave, I understand time's up. If you want to stay for a couple minutes, I want to show you what the panels are like.
Okay.
With Helen, what is it? This is Terry Saraceno, who is wonderful, one of the teachers there. She actually took over the administration, I think, from Helen. And then on the far right is Helen Palmer. And then in between, there's two people of each type, and they have a panel for ones, twos,
Oh, how
threes.
cool.
And this is how you learn when you go out and certify. You have a panel, more people. And let's go to, where are we? 7 something roughly. Where's the number?
About 7.5 minutes.
Let's try
And
that.
we'll
We're gonna look at.
learn about the experience of these three types as we look at the focus of attention and the barrier to this receptivity Helen spoke about and being in this compassionate presence that we're talking about. So I begin with 6, and I know nothing about this. It's only what I've read out of a book. So I'll see what I can remember. So this is the core. As you see in the diagram, 3, 6, and 9 are the core of the triad. So this is sort of the most pure embodiment of the
Maybe it's,
You can even see the way they're sitting.
Oh, it shows up in the body language.
Helen spoke about and being in this compassionate presence that we're talking about. So I begin with 6, and I know nothing about this. It's only what I've read out of a book. So I'll see what I can remember. So this is the core. As you see in the diagram, 3, 6, and 9 are the core of the triad. So this is sort of the most pure embodiment of the emotion of fear. And so for us, our focus of attention, in order to know that we're not afraid, is to be prepared for the worst case scenario, looking for how we can be prepared to cover what could go wrong. On your focus of attention handout in your book is called hazard. So in a certain way, we're looking for what could go wrong so that we can be prepared in case that happens. The mental habit or the cognitive habit is called doubt. So we often doubt in order to try to find certainty. And what's underneath this is actually fear. The passion of this type, the vice is another language, the driving emotional energy, however you want to talk about it, is fear. I don't want to know I'm afraid. So if I can figure things out and I can doubt and I can trust this mental capacity that I have, then I feel like I'm going to be safe. And I'm looking for certainty. If I can have plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, so if anything goes wrong, it's covered, then my body relaxes. So what I'd like to do is hear from you. How do you recognize this focus of attention of scanning for what could go wrong or hazard? John or Christine? And hold it close.
Okay. Well, certainly I think it's been there before I even knew it. So starting like from college, I switched majors all over the place looking for one to land. I landed on religion because that asks the most interesting questions and maybe I could find truth.
Truth.
And then...
Did you find it?
No.
And then what happened?
And then I went on to graduate school in psychology because I thought, there is truth. And that will answer all the questions of who am I and da 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 da. And then I decided to start studying Jungian analysis.
Uh-huh.
And then actually, it is synchronous just yesterday. I was finished all my exams. So if I finish all my exams, then, and they say, which they have said, you are a Jungian analyst, well, maybe I have found the answer to all doubt.
You think so?
And so here I am in the Enneagram.
Right? So what
I've been found out.
Right. So you're describing this pattern of searching for certainty, searching for truth, because why do you think? What underlies that for you, Christine?
Well, I think I can go back to the wanting of safety and security within something that says you have found it. So if I have found the right answer, then I will be safe. And part of that is, I think, also culturally undergirded because I'm part Chinese.
Yes.
And so for the Chinese, you always study. You never can say you are smart enough. You always find a teacher. So if you meet the Buddha on the road, slay him? No.
No.
If you meet the Buddha on the road, ask him to be your teacher.
Right. So you're
There, I have to do it from this angle. Okay, so she's the phobic. I'll give you a cooking on the.
describing also a characteristic.
Covering stuff, I'm always trying to get people to find their own inner authority. So you know, my what helped
Between counterphobic and phobic. 6 has come in 2 varieties, and we're on a continuum actually. But the core, I mean, the counterphobic move, I'm afraid, but by God, I'm not going to let you know that, and I'm going to challenge, and I'm going to do wilderness survival, and I'm going to be the daredevil, and I'm going to be the devil's advocate. The attention is still on the outside authority, right? Mm-hmm. I have to prove myself. Counterphobic 6s tend to look more angry, because the anger comes up first, and often, as you just said beautifully, I didn't know I was afraid. I didn't know that fear was driving this. Phobic 6s tend to look more fearful just in general. So that's the difference, and can be why 6 is hard to determine sometimes, because it comes in these 2 flavors. So what happened then when you were able to recognize what's underneath your pattern of
less fear, less reactivity. You know, sometimes it'll come on like, oh wow, you could die any moment. A little paranoid thought. Wow, that's interesting. Thank you.
Just because you're paranoid doesn't mean it's not real.
Right. So less of it, and I struggled with authority for years and years and years, and now that I've become more comfortable with my own self, there's less of that.
Right.
Just like, And my teaching, I do integral recovery stuff. I'm always trying to get people to find their own inner authority. So my what helped me is what I'm trying to convey to the people I work with. That go deep enough, and you'll find that wisdom. You'll find that direction. So you don't have to go out and do this thing.
So that, again, right here is the teaching of the Enneagram, from the conditioned to the unconditioned. If I go inside and find my own inner authority, tell us about that. Can you speak what that feels like inside when you're coming from your own authority?
No, it feels really great. It feels like I'm whole, like I'm in that flow of what I was born to do, and it feels really, really centered and great. Really
Right.
good.
So you can feel it as he speaks about it, and they need you to hold the mic a little closer. Go to Helen is getting from the mental activity of the thinking and the preparing and the planning into the
was, I didn't get hurt, though I could have. And then you get enough reinforcement for that you do have a nose for, and I'm sure in your client base, you know when they're starting to falsify. You work with addicts, you know they're starting to falsify, they're in danger, and you're going to rally around that to try to help and assist in that point. And you know enough about yourself that you might not be as acute to where they are already on the road to recovery. So knowing your bias and your, let's say, latent or unrecognized intuition about danger, that might override some other types, equally real intuition about how they're falling in love, or how they have a good day, or why did they come in more relaxed today than they did last week? You see, and a whole intuition from another perspective would start to be wound around supporting that aspect of the client. And our important message here is, you've got to be balanced and present enough in the present moment to be able to recognize, and this is the inner observer on the road, on the hoof, that the inner observer can detect, discriminate, it's called in spiritual jargon, to detect the difference between projection and an actual received impression, because a spiritual experience, this would be low-level spiritual experience, into kind of psychism, low-level spiritual experience, a true psychic impression is a received impression. It was not made up by your conscious mind. It came to you when your conscious mind was displaced.
Okay, that gave you a sample of the panels. I show these videos periodically too, so that's just one more piece in there. So, any more questions?